Yo, what is up, YouTube? I am back today. It's Rahul. It's Thursday, and you guys get a YouTube video? How weird is that? Um, I promise I'd be trying to do some Unite content, Pokemon Unite content on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now that it's been a week since the game has been released, everyone's had a little bit of time to settle in. It's a completely free game on the Nintendo Switch. If you have not gotten it already, I would highly recommend getting it. There are some pay to win, pay to convenience aspects of the game, which I will discuss in a later video, kind of explaining items, kind of how to build it, use your item enhancers in the best way possible. But I figured the first way to break the ice with the game a little bit, even though I've already talked about a little bit what you need to know about the game, check out the other video um, where I talk about all the basics of the game. It's a MOBA, so if you guys have not played a MOBA before, is your first time playing one, it's a lot easier to get into than a lot of the other MOBAs. 10-minute games makes it really nice. Also, the fact that we all love Pokemon, super easy. A lot of things are simplified from other games like League of Legends, Smite, or Dota. So it's very cool to have. So I figured the first video I'd do on content for Pokemon Unite specifically would be on a tier list. Now, you guys are more than welcome to disagree with me. I'm going to give explanations for where I think each character belongs, more or less, why I think they belong there, how you can play around them, how they fit into certain team compositions, etc., etc. And if you guys want any qualification status, I'm already at Ultra 4 at the time of recording this video. So I'm like 5 or 6 games, maybe 5 games away from getting to Master rank, which is the highest rank you can get. That's not a flex or anything. I don't want to like sound like I'm bragging. I'm just really proud of the accomplishment. And I am streaming my climb a little bit with no webcam. So if you want to come catch me on twitch.tv, you guys can. Remember, if you're enjoying the content, subscribe to the channel, like, and leave in the comments below what you guys would like to see me do with Pokemon Unite. I don't have any plans for any Pokemon Unite content right now or how I'm going to do it. But if you guys have any ideas, please let me know in the comments below. Monday, Wednesday, Friday will still be our regular Pokemon TCG videos. That is not going to change. But we're going to go to Unite right now. So let's switch over to doing a tier list. So here are all the available Pokemon in the game for us. Blastoise is not available right now, so I should probably make like a not available tier right now, right? Let's probably add a row below, and title it unavailable right now, right? Because these are not available. So Blastoise immediately gets slotted in unavailable right now. We know Blastoise is coming, and we know Clefable is also coming. But Blastoise, I mean, given the pattern of how they've been releasing the champions, I think it'll come out very quickly. So I'm going to start by saying a lot of you guys will have differing opinions to me. A lot of top players might also have differing opinions to me. As you're playing, there's obviously going to be some Pokemon that you are better at playing against, worse at playing against, depending on your role, etc., etc. So I'm just going to go down the entire list, kind of place things where I think they're really, really good. Talk about why they're really good and what compositions they kind of fit into. So I think Absol goes into somewhat of a B tier because while Absol is really, really good as a speedster and a jungler, as Absol is really good as a speedster, you kind of have to play Absol in the mid/jungle role to get the levels that Absol needs to kind of start critting. Now, if you're not playing Absol with attack weight, it gets really hard to get high damage numbers early, and your late game scaling is like really not that amazing. Like late game, you will fall off if the enemy team has a lot of tanks, a lot of like support champions that can displace you and move you, but you are really good at gap closing onto AD carries and like Pokemon like Cinderace. Like you can get onto those all-rounder Pokemon, not all-rounder, sorry, the attacker Pokemon really easily. Pokemon like Cinderace, Pokemon like Pikachu, like they don't have a way to get out of there. Like if you jump onto a Gardevoir, Gardevoir can't really get out of there, and you're probably going to be able to knock out the Gardevoir. So Absol gets really, really strong in those kinds of situations. But when you get into a team fighting situation, a lot of the time Absol doesn't provide exactly what you need in a 5v5 team fight, unless you have a nice angle to flank and take out the enemy attacker, like I mentioned earlier. So that's why I put Absol in B tier. Absol was one of the first champions I started learning, or Pokemon I started learning. And it didn't really feel that bad, but when I started getting to the higher levels and playing in a 5v5 scenario, it did not feel great. Now, Charizard is going to go into my D tier. I'm not going to put very many Pokemon in the D tier, but I think Charizard overall has like a really high, like you need to get to Charizard, which takes quite a while to get all your skills online. I've played against a lot of Charizards, and not one of them has really made me scared to play the game. Charizard does not have that much pressure, does not have very good point control. And when you're having a fifth slot, especially for an all-rounder slot, where you want to be kind of having that all-rounder get in there, make something happen. Right now, everyone else is just better, like strictly better. So I know there's a bug with Charizard and Muscle Band, so I don't know how much that'll affect things. But as it currently stands, I don't think Charizard actually played Muscle Band. So Yeah, and any lane that Charmander is in at any given point, it feels like a really easy lane to come play a 3v2, try to pressure the point, pressure the Dreadnought or the Rotom. So Charizard just feels like one of those Pokemon that doesn't do anything. Now Cinderace goes into my S tier. I think Cinderace is played really well in the mid jungle role and in the bot or top role as an attacker. You can kind of flex Cinderace anywhere. The damage that Cinderace provides and the range that Cinderace has is absolutely insane. By going with Blaze Kick into Feint, you are basically getting a leap out when you get jumped in on, and then you get a basically get out of jail free card with Feint. You're doing so much damage. Every third hit procs like a crit, I think. You're doing burn damage. You're taking them down. You are literally just, your attack speed is crazy if you build heavy crit like Scope Lens, Muscle Band, Floatstone, which is what I play on Cinderace. Cinderace is my absolute favorite main right now. You are going to be melting pretty much everyone on their team. The problem is when you're playing a build like I am, if you get gap closed on without your Blaze Kick active and Feint active, you will probably get taken down because you can go Feint into eject button, make a lot of distance. Maybe Unite move even to get some attack speed, or movement speed, sorry. But yeah, if you get gap closed on, it's really hard. So you need to play Cinderace with a couple of tanks. You are going to be your team's primary damage. So if your team is okay with something like that, then you have a good team composition. Cinderace plus like 3 other carry champions or attacker champions is not going to work necessarily as well. But if you have Cinderace and maybe like a Snorlax as well as like a Lucario, maybe a Ninetales for some crowd control, and then like a Pikachu or something to like follow up the damage that you're doing, then you have really good, yeah, and you have really good objective control also because of the range. So Dreadnought, Rotom, Zapdos you can contest super easily from outside the like areas, and go in for really easy steals as well with the skill set. So I think Cinderace is probably the best Pokemon right now in the game. Yeah. Next up is our boy the Crammy. I am hesitant to put him in B because I think he's like kind of a C tier champion or Pokemon. But I'm going to put him in B for now because I have taken a lot of damage from Cramorant in the past and just gotten one shot. So Cramorant obviously does a lot of damage and can really just take out any Pokemon, like knock them out like really, really quickly. It does not seem difficult for Cramorant to do. But the problem is that Cramorant has very low mobility, and if the gap gets closed on a Cramorant, well, they can't run anywhere. Cramorant just kind of gets taken down. Your escape mechanism is not there. Your ultimate is very, very, very good in a teamfight scenario where you have walls protecting you. Like if Cramorant goes ultimate and like Mr. Mime ults or Snorlax ults or something, then all the other Pokemon in the range are going to get absolutely destroyed. But the problem is getting off an ult that doesn't get you displaced or interrupted reliably. So Cramorant needs to be going in a lane with someone that is somewhat tankier. You can't really go into a lane and like play like a pure damage lane because I think the gap gets closed super easily onto you. Yeah. Crustle, I think, goes into A tier. I think almost all the defenders go into A tier just because, like, or better, because defenders are really undervalued right now. Crustle can run people down really easily. If you get the wall skill, you can wall someone off as well. Crustle is just like really good at displacing people as well. So during team fight scenarios, you can kind of just like get into their backline really easily and start pushing them around, make the enemy team play in a way they don't want to play. And then Crustle's ult just makes them really, really hard to kind of go through because unless you're like a Cinderace or maybe a Greninja, you don't have enough damage to really go through, like chew through that gigantic shield that Crustle builds up for themselves. I've noticed this firsthand. It eats up a lot of time, buys a lot of time for your team, and it's one of those Pokemon that can really get into the back lines and cause a lot of problems for the enemy team if they're not prepared to deal with the Crustle just running in. But that being said, after Crustle blows all their abilities, they kind of don't really have much going for them, and they need backup. Like Crustle by themselves can't do a lot of damage. Sure, if you get really farmed and really ahead, maybe you can carry the game like that. But as a defender, you cannot really 1v9 the game, which is a little bit of the problem with defenders. But in a team fight scenario, in a team comp scenario, defenders are going to be your overall main difference makers. Okay, Eldegoss, straight going into S tier. I'm not even thinking about it. Every time I've played against an Eldegoss, every time I've played with an Eldegoss, the ultimate seems insane. The laning presence seems absolutely nuts. You have a lot of heal, sustain, shields, like movement speed. You're getting all these caveats, all these perks. You're basically playing a really, really strong support that can do everything that you need it to do on a team except for damage. But if you have a lot of sustainable damage, like Cinderace, like Lucario, like Gengar even, like you have all these like other sustainable damage sources, then Eldegoss just kind of carries the game from the support role. So if you guys are new to the game and learning to pick up Eldegoss, I think that's a great one to pick up because a lot of people are not playing Eldegoss, so it'd be a really underappreciated role, and I'm sure your team would love you for doing so. Now, Garchomp goes into C tier. I played a lot of Garchomp during the beta, and I was really high on Garchomp. I thought they could be like one of those Pokemon that I can 1v9 the game with. It's one of those Pokemon that when I get my ultimate off, I can kind of just snowball the game and win. Because that is what happens. If Garchomp gets their ultimate off, you can kind of kill 2 or 3 people really easily, but players are getting better. Players are understanding kind of Garchomp's range and limitations and liabilities. And I think Garchomp's skills got reduced in damage a little bit because I would just like one-shot everybody in the beta. So, and that is no longer the case. And obviously, until you are Garchomp, Gible does not really provide anything in the laning phase, similar to how Charmander doesn't. And Gabite provides pretty much near nothing as well. You can't contest any of the wild Pokemon. You cannot, really fight 1v1. Gabite can get dig and kind of go in and make him be a menace, but the moment you go in, if the enemy team is prepared, well, you're just a Gabite in the middle of an ocean, and you don't have a raft or float. I don't know. You're just going to die. Yeah. Now, Gardevoir, I think, goes into B tier as well, because I think Gardevoir it's newer, so I haven't had much time to experiment with Gardevoir personally. Literally came out yesterday. I played a little bit of quick play with it, played a little bit of standard games with it. But Gardevoir is one of those Pokemon that feels like they do a lot of damage, and they have a really good team fighting ult. But the problem is Gardevoir has absolutely zero mobility, kind of similar to Cramorant. You're absolutely immobile. You cannot go anywhere if somebody gap closes onto you. It does feel like the game is just kind of really hard for you to play. So you need a really good tank line. You need to be really good, like coordinated with your team to actually make it work. Keep getting those resets off on your abilities. Continuously keep using them. And one good team fight ult at the Zapdos pit could entirely change the game, which is why I think the Gardevoir is a very strong Pokemon in general. But as of now, I think Gardevoir is B tier because until they can really get up to a certain level, it feels like, the game is one-sided. Now, this might be the most controversial take I have. I think Gengar is A tier, not S tier, because, yes, Gengar can combo you with Sludge Bomb Hex and kind of one-shot any Pokemon or two-shot any Pokemon, and while you're in Hex, you're invulnerable. But I think Gengar does take a little bit of time to get online. So while Gengar is getting online, if your team can build some of those early advantages, when the early Dreadnought fight kind of contest the enemy jungler, if they are going to be Gengar, you want to be contesting because Haunter can't really do much in the early game. Even if Haunter comes in at level 5, Haunter's coming to lane with Sludge Bomb to kind of gank. So until Gengar is Gengar, you have time. You have time to kind of get your game plan rolling. And then when Gengar gets online, some players have been taking full heal to deal with the Sludge Bomb to stop the Hex chain. As long as you don't group up entirely and you all get hit by Sludge Bomb or all hit by Status Condition, Gengar has not been that scary. I thought Gengar was like the bane of the end, basically like Gengar's OP, please nerf, like every single time, every single game. But as I've been playing more and more, I just feel like Gengar has not been the issue why we're losing games. Sure, Gengar makes me play in a little bit of a different way where it's like weirder, but I don't think Gengar is the reason that I'm primarily losing games. I think like support champions and defender champions are Pokemon that are really good in the pit and like point control are really, really strong, and that's the reason you lose games. Now, this is also a little bit of a bias. I have Greninja up in A tier because every Greninja I've played against does an insane amount of damage for no reason, and I don't understand how they get to Greninja so quickly. Their spikes seem to be coming much faster, and again, it's like one of those things with like Gardevoir, Garchomp, and Charizard, where like the damage doesn't outweigh what you're losing in terms of how long it takes you to get onto the board. It takes Greninja a while to get online, but if you put Greninja into a lane with a tank or a support, they can kind of like sustain. You have a lot of time to get online because you also have a lot of mobility, so you can make these like greedy trades in the early levels. You also are a ranged Pokemon, so you can contest those objectives a little bit better. The Vespiquen that spawn, the Audino, the Corphish, whichever lane you're in, you can contest those a little bit better. Contest the enemy APOM, and then being ranged, like virtue of being ranged, you have the ability to potentially get those steals, get to a higher level quicker. And then I think Greninja evolves at 7 or 8. So all of a sudden, you are doing a lot of damage at that point in time in the game. So, yeah. And every Greninja I've played with also has been really good. Shout out Nico. He's been pretty much carrying a lot of games on Greninja for us. Like my Cinderace and his Greninja have been pretty much 2v like 9 in the game. Now, I'm putting Lucario in A tier. But I think it's between an A and B because I think Lucario is one of those Pokemon that does a lot of damage, has a lot of dive potential, can really get to the backline very quickly, and if you get the attack weight off really early, it's really hard to deal with. But Lucario is one of those Pokemon, again, that if you miss your skills, if you miss your dive, miss engage, it makes it really easy to get them out of position and kind of punish them. But every Lucario I've played against, every Bruiser I've played against, like Lucario is one of the better Bruisers because you already start at your evolved form. You are already pretty much online with how much damage you're doing, and you're really scary to deal with in the laning phase because if you like are carelessly checking a brush, or if you are just sitting in a brush, the opposing brush could have Lucario in it, and they could just dive in onto you, and all of a sudden, boom, you're dead. Like it's really scary to deal with. Lucario is like absolutely terrifying to play against, and it's really good in a team fight scenario when they can just force your team to play a little bit differently because they can go through walls as well. Now, Machamp, for the same reason, is going to A tier. Machamp is also obviously a bruiser and obviously a stage 2, so it's going to take longer for them to get online as an all-rounder. But Jungle Machamp is not as common as what I've seen from Lane Machamp, but Machop, Machoke, and Machamp all will get submission at 5, I believe 6. So at that moment, you are all of a sudden online. Submission just absolutely, like, you run at someone, you displace them, and the moment you displace them, that just gives your time for your attacker or your speedster to just jump in and do a lot of damage all at once. So your job is basically just to like run in there, cause a bunch of havoc, and for some reason you also are really, really tanky and kind of a menace to society. So I had a really low opinion of Machamp until yesterday after my team started playing Machamp and we started playing against a bunch of Machamps, and I realized how valuable the ability to just run in with an unstoppable, untargetable ability is when you go in and just like grab their attacker. Now, one of the natural counters to Machamp is Cinderace, but the problem is Cinderace needs to be able to use Blaze Kick to get away from Machamp, because if not, you're going to get submission. At the moment you get touched by submission, any attacker, any speedster, you're knocked out. There's nothing you can do in that kind of situation unless Machamp does not have a team with them. Yeah. Mr. Mime also, Mr. Mime's going to S tier. I honestly, this is like a little bit of bias, but I think Mr. Mime is super S tier just because every time I've played against a Mr. Mime, it feels like they have so much point control. If they knock you up against their walls or knock you up against a wall, the stun is so long comparatively to anything else in this game. The crowd control is absolutely insane. They have a lot of just displacement abilities, and Mr. Mime's ult or Unite move in the Zapdos pit feels like an almost guaranteed Zapdos because you get so many shields and like, I don't know, Mr. Mime feels like one of those Pokemon that if you guys are not learning or like are you playing in a support role, this would be an excellent Pokemon to pick up. I just feel like it provides so much for your team at all facets of the game. Laning phase is really strong. Your objective control is really strong. Your point control is really strong. Your point attack is really strong. It just feels like one of those like champions or Pokemon that feels like absolutely insane, like to play against, to play with. Like anytime I play against a Mime, it feels like you have to play a little bit differently because all of a sudden, even if you're an attacker or a speedster, you're just knocked up against a wall. You're stunned for like a second, and 1 second is all it takes in this game to get bursted down. Alolan Ninetales is going to go in A tier as well for me because Alolan Ninetales also evolves very quickly at level 4, and you have the passive ability that kind of like lets you know when ganks are coming more or less. Does a good bit of damage, and then if you play like a Dazzling Gleam, Aura Veil combination of skills, you are setting up to give your team a lot of defense and sustainability, and your Unite move is absolutely insane in the Zapdos pit. Your Unite move is absolutely insane for point control. And the natural freeze that Alolan Ninetales brings is a lot of like really annoyance to play against in the laning phase. Ninetales plus like Aldegos, Ninetales plus Mr. Mime, Ninetales plus Snorlax, like Ninetales plus Slowbro, any of these other Pokemon that rely on just like getting in there, gap closing, being a big wall for you, you can really punish with Ninetales because you also can freeze the opposing Pokemon and you can get some free kills here and there. Like your objective, like fighting is really good. You can contest like Audinos, Dreadnoughts, all those things really nicely. The only problem is you are very squishy and your damage output is not that high. So Ninetales' damage not being high means that like you're not like going to be your Cinderace, you're not going to be Greninja. It's just late game, we're relying on you to freeze the opposing Pokemon to kind of set up the point control, get that Aurora Veil down, so your team gets that 50% defense boost, etc., etc. Very, very strong. Pikachu also goes in A tier. Now, note there's a lot of Pokemon in A tier, but I just think there's a lot of Pokemon that are really, really good, and some Pokemon that are like not as good. But obviously, I've lost a lot of these Pokemon. I've beat a lot of these Pokemon, so it's a little bit just my own personal opinion. Pikachu is really strong from level 1. Electroweb is absolutely insane in the laning phase. You can partner it with anybody, really. Like, Pikachu can go with any of the attackers as well because of the range that Pikachu has. Electro Ball locks into your target, so once you've Electro Balled somebody, you're doing a lot of damage for like no reason. But the problem with Pikachu is your Unite move is not that amazing, and towards the mid to late game, your damage really, really falls off, and your pit control is not that great. Like, Pikachu can attack from outside the pit, but besides having Thunderbolt, which I think you should take every time over Volt Tackle, maybe Volt Tackle is good when you're like getting dove a lot of the time, but I think Thunderbolt's really good for like having that paralysis effect in like team fights. But besides that, and your Electro Ball, you're not really offering much to a team fight, so they don't really have to target you because your damage is not going to be that high compared to like your Cinderace or your Gardevoir late game, or Greninja even. So like it's going to be one of those situations where Pikachu starts off really strong, and for the first like 5 minutes of the game, 5-6 minutes of the game, Pikachu's going to be really, really strong. And if you can snowball that advantage you have with Pikachu, you'll win the game pretty easily. But if you don't, and you're like playing like from neutral or behind, Pikachu becomes relatively useless very quickly, is how I feel. Slowbro, my guy Slowbro is S tier by far. There is not even a question in my mind. The fact that his ultimate completely takes somebody out of the fight, and he gets a gigantic shield that it takes forever to chew through, is absolutely insane to me. In the laning phase, Slowbro is another defender champion that just does a lot in the laning phase. Anyone who's partnered with Slowbro feels like, well, you have to deal with, I mean, Slowpoke is really easy to deal with the first couple levels maybe, but then after a little bit, point control is really good, defense is really good. I mean, I don't know what else to say about Slowbro. Slowbro just feels really good. Surf is an escape if you need it. Yeah, just really, really good overall. My last S tier champion, spoiler, is Snorlax. I think Snorlax also is really, really good as a defender from level 1. Snorlax has insane point control. Snorlax's ability to just jump in and kind of like give you guys a really good engage into team fights, a really good tank. The shield that Snorlax provides is absolutely bonkers for any point control, for any objective control. You can kind of get your team where you need them to be while you're using the shield and setting them up. You can funnel them into a choke. Around Zapdos pit, around Dreadnought, like you can just funnel them into a location they don't want to play from, and all of a sudden the shield just carries its weight, and it's not even the ultimate move or the Unite move, which is absolutely insane to me. So Snorlax is just absolutely bonkers from level 1. As soon as your jungler says, or mid laner says they're coming, Snorlax can just jump in onto them out of no prompt necessary, and your jungler can come in and follow up, whether it be Cinderace, whether it be Absol, Gengar, whoever it is can follow up. Now, Talonflame I'm putting in C tier because I think Talonflame is a Pokemon that has not been very strong in my experience. Like, landing your skills like Brave Bird seems very difficult to do. And if you take Fly, you're just in the air for a little bit and you're just not in your team fight helping your team. The ultimate is really nice at displacing the opposing Pokemon, but I don't really understand what Talonflame brings to a team fight, what Talonflame can really do besides go for sneaky dunks towards the late game. And at that point, if you're playing against a high-level coordinated team and you're going for sneaky dunks, all one person has to do is jump back onto the jump pad, and Talonflame can't do anything. So, a lot of like what ifs, like question marks with Talonflame. Maybe I'm just not playing it correctly. Maybe I haven't seen Talonflame been played correctly, but it just feels like Talonflame's risk versus reward does not seem like super strong, and how much you have to do to get it online does not seem super amazing. Oh, and obviously Talonflame goes into the jungle/mid role. Last but not least, Venusaur. I think Venusaur is in the D tier. Again, takes way too long to get online. Solar Beam is really cute to contest objectives, and Sludge Bomb is really cute to kind of help Gengar get some status conditions and kind of help your team out. But if you're filling the role of a damage dealer and attacker, you cannot have those kinds of like weak skills, especially when you take like 9 levels to get onto the board. In that time, you are going to possibly be getting pressured in whatever lane you're in. Your lane partner is probably going to be having to play very defensively because of just the fact that you are just a weaker Pokemon in lane. Unless you're probably up against like a bruiser like Lucario or Machamp, maybe it's fine because you can Sludge Bomb and they can go run in and just do their thing. But so far, Venusaur has been like super underwhelming. I've won every Venusaur game I've played, but I feel like I've done anything. Like it's not me that won the game, like it's my team that won the game. I just existed as Venusaur. So it's one of those Pokemon that just doesn't feel good in any capacity. So if you're learning the game, I would highly recommend picking up one of the defenders or the support Pokemon, because I think those are really undervalued when you get to the higher levels. You won't be able to climb solo a lot with those Pokemon, but if you have a secondary person, just a duo, just one other person, it makes it worlds easier to climb. If you were just a good Snorlax, if you're a good Mr. Mime, if you're a good Slowbro, like all you need is one Cinderace combination, all you need is one Pikachu partner. Like all of a sudden, you will be climbing very quickly through the ranks. So this is my Unite tier list. I obviously there'll be patches, hotfixes, etc., coming out. I will keep an eye on out for that. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want to see the item video by Saturday or you want to see it for Tuesday's video. If you guys want to see it as early as Saturday, I will push myself to do it. I'm pretty busy tomorrow night, but I will push myself and try to do what I need to do because I do like making content for everybody. So if you guys are enjoying the content, please like, subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. I'm excited to be doing Pokemon Unite content. It seems like a lot of fun. I seem really good at this game. I want to get better. So I'm also playing a tournament on Sunday. If you guys watch this to the end, I'll probably be streaming it. Depends on if my team wants me to have our flaming communications online. But until next time, thank you guys so much for watching. It's Rahul. Peace out.